I am not the leader to get us to a certain point. I know where my boundaries are. I know where my cutoff is. So as a startup founder or a co-founder for her to have that self-awareness, and that builds trust for me, hearing that, her vulnerability, saying, I know I can only get us to this point. I cannot move us further. I have to hire a CEO who I can learn to trust as a co-founder or a founder of a startup, and then move from there. Trust those people to do the role, not have scope creep, not have many people doing the same thing. And oh my gosh, I'm not going to hover over. I'm not going to swoop in and take credit. I'm not going to, you can partner together, but being that vulnerable person and saying, I know that I need a CEO to lead this after I get to a certain point. That's vulnerability. That's true leadership. And
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm your host for Inside the C-Suite, where execs get real about leadership, impact, and what it truly takes to make high-stake decisions. I am so excited to have on the show today a good friend of mine. He is the principal advisor of Two Coast Capital. This gentleman has held many C-suite titles across different industries and verticals. Mark, is there anything else you'd like to share?
thanks for having me, Christy. I appreciate it. No, we can talk about those things during the podcast here in our conversation. We'll let them just roll into each other, but no need to go on and on about whatever we're going to talk about will happen. Awesome.
Organically.
Yes, it'll happen organically. It'll happen authentically. It'll happen and it'll just spill over out of the joy that we have for spending time doing this together.
So, Mark, I first met you. I was actually going back through all of our communication on LinkedIn and was really
Yeah.
shocked that you and I met in 2014. You had reached out to me. I was leading RPO at the time. I don't even remember where it was. Maybe IBM. I think it might have been IBM in that stint because you had the greatest background. You had Novartis, J&J. Like you were my life science. Like, yes, please. Those were the hardest roles, right?
Yeah.
But you reached out and we stayed connected and kind of reconnected recently. It's the power of networking, it's the power of connection. And I am so grateful to have you in my network. But I'd love for you to tell the audience, because I think right now you can agree or disagree with me, but in talent acquisition and HR, I think we've got a lot of burnout. I think we've got a lot of people thinking about what's next for me. How's this industry moving and am I going to be a part of it? I know tech is largely involved, but could you share from your seat, because it's a unique seat, how did you go from being a recruiter to an entrepreneur? And then what did you learn? Because there's so many people that are in that aha moment right now.
Yeah, that's a great question, Christy. When I was recruiting, it's
Mhm.
building those human connections and being a true business partner for any vertical of the business. And that's started for me back when I was at J&J. I was there for about 4.5, 5 years. And within that time, about 2008, I said, there's something about building and being a solutionist with all these different verticals and businesses and operating companies that I have exposure to. How can I really tap into that potential? What can I do? How can I make that more purposeful for me and those other people that I'm connecting with? It's more than just us. It's a bigger mission. And going into that, and I said, ooh, what do I really want to focus on? What do I get out of this? It's purposeful and it's intentional. And it was a journey. I really didn't know at the time. I was like, all right, I build relationships with a lot of my audience and a lot of my peers that are in the business. And it's funny, after that, I went over to Pfizer and I was there for a year, and I was working in 3 different verticals. I was working in animal health, I was working in health economics, outcomes research, and a few other different marketing and sales and everything else. And someone said, Mark, do you want to get into the business and out of the out? And I was like, I was scared. It was fearful. I was like, oh, it's so uncomfortable. I don't know what to expect. So I didn't take a leap, but I still partnered and broadened my horizons with every other business unit that I could from there on out. And that leads me reaching into going out to you and saying, hey, let's connect. You were at IBM, you were doing RPO. I think I did RPO from 2010 to 2013, and then I did another stint in 2014, and then I left life sciences and pharmaceuticals in 2014. And I was like, I need something else. I need a change.
Mm-hmm. So burnout before burnout. I mean, we talk about COVID and AI and all the burnout we're having, but at
Yeah.
the end of the day, what I think a lot of people don't understand is the value of talent acquisition, recruitment, and HR. It is people purpose. It is focused, and I've yet to find maybe one or two, but the majority, like 99% of the people in the industry are in the industry because they care about people,
Yes.
which I think can be hard on people that are working in that industry because you give all of your heart, you give all of yourself. You can feel you really, really, truly want to help everybody. And I
Yeah.
know that we share the same passions, right? So authenticity, purpose, human connection. And I think I know I'm experiencing with the age of technology and our peers being out of work for so many years now. It's really challenging. And I know that you had shared one of your biggest failures was thinking that your network could save you. So I'm just curious
Yeah.
what advice you have because guys, listen, he's also an executive coach. But I'm curious what advice you have for people that find themselves in this position. What steps did you take to get to where you are?
Yeah. So I had to go back and look at my purpose, look at my potential, and then look at my play. What do I do that is fun for me? And this is something that I've actually come to make an ethos and my framework, which is TIA: transparency, integrity, and authenticity. And when we work and connect with other like minded people or just in our own being, we create trust. And people that
Mm,
I know want to work with other people that they trust. There is no clear delineation of going, this is my professional life, this is my personal life. Now it's all conjoined into one. And I want to work with people I trust. I've been down the road of people just getting certain accolades and everything else. I'm a huge team player. So I don't want just one person to win, right? And in the
oh,
team, there is no I, there's no selfishness. Hopefully, we're proud of our accomplishments individually, but we can reach more people collectively when we have a great team with little ego. And that kind of stands out to me when we're doing human connection. And when that works for us right now, Christy, is we have a lot of work. It's about the human connection. And
hmm
I actually implemented a strategy. It's called Prime to Perform. And at a startup that I was at in 2021 and 2022, we increased retention by 30% as we doubled the size of the company from 200 people to over 400 people. And everyone's like, how did you do that? Well, we went along with the strategy that is proven. What is your purpose? It's a 3P model. Tapping into your purpose as an individual, giving people potential and having a roadmap to their potential, and then instituting some gamification and some fun and some play. So purpose, potential, and play. And people were like, oh my gosh, I have a mission. I see the mission of the company. I have my own purpose and I see my potential mapped out for me. How does it fit in here? They became comfortable being uncomfortable on that journey because they had leadership. They had true transparency. They had where we're going and how we're going to get there. So it was interesting. It was a
wow.
great journey.
I love that story so much because it resonates a lot with me because I'm in the startup world right now. I've launched startups, from being an RPO, I've launched airlines
Yeah.
and things like that, which were beautiful and was super fun. But they had a really good structure and they were kind of ready to go. But I've never worked within a startup and beside partners that are in startups and things like that. And you take these brilliant people and you put them in seats and they're passionate and they're building this company, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily a people leader or a good
Right.
leader, or maybe they've never even had an opportunity to have that mentorship to get to where they are. And I do find that so you've got a lot of passion, a lot of good hearts, but sometimes it can become toxic if people don't understand their value and purpose in their role, right? Everybody wants to be purposeful. I don't care who you are. Everyone wants and needs purpose. And I think that's really cool that you created the 3 Ps.
I didn't create it.
You did. Where did it come from?
I can Prime to Perform it's actually a book and it's based upon there. And so we implemented their strategies and their framework at the company that I was at. The company was called Booster.
Thank you for correcting me. We'll give you a shout out. That's awesome. Well, you talk a lot about trust, and trust in business is important, especially in growth
Yeah.
initiatives,
Yeah.
because you can't bring along partners and friends and referrals if you don't have trust. And I think, anybody that I work with, I always tell them that if you've worked with me or for me, you have access to me. But I also pride myself on being very transparent because I want
Yes.
us to win together. Do you have any examples or story of how trust has played out for you, both good and bad?
Yeah, definitely. I give people time, and I give people chances. And within there, trusts can be earned, but I also think it has to be given. We have to be vulnerable to give that and say, I'm willing to be hurt. I'm willing to feel being unheard at times. And that's true reality in any kind of partnership, friendship, or in business. What does that look like? So I'm thinking of one friend of mine. She is a health and wellness startup leader, and she has a startup herself. And Leanne's a really good friend of mine. I meet with Leanne probably once a month, and she's very passionate. And she's the co-founder of her company. It's in health and wellness, and I'm one of the advisors that she talks to. I'm sure one of many. And in launching this for the past 2 years, she's said to me on different calls, I am not the leader to get us to a certain point. I know where my boundaries are. I know where my cutoff is. So as a startup founder or a co-founder for her to have that self-awareness, and
Wow.
that builds trust for me hearing that, her vulnerability saying, I know it can only get us to this point. I cannot move us further. I have to hire a CEO who I can learn to trust as a co-founder or a founder of a startup and then move from there. Trust those people to do the role, not have scope creep, right? Not have many people doing the same thing. And oh my gosh, I'm not going to hover over, I'm not going to swoop in and take credit on. You can partner together, but being that vulnerable person and saying, I know that I need a CEO to lead this after I get to a certain point. That's vulnerability. That's true leadership. And I applaud Leanne for mentioning that to me and another coworker of mine on the technical side that was on that call to, our advisory call together. So that's a great example of that, I think.
That's a great example, I think, of building trust. Do you have one of where it was just utterly destroyed? Don't drop the names.
No,
We'll
no,
protect the innocent.
working on commercial funding. There's a number of commercial projects that I'm working on right now with my business partner for Two Coast Capital, our company. And within there, we meet a lot of people that are, oh, I can find these people funding. Sure, whatever it might be, seed, pre-seed, whether it's debt, equity, I'll find these people some funding, right? And track with me, I'm a very nonlinear thinker, so I'll jump from one to the other. So within there, some of these negative things happen and you don't expect them. I don't
Yeah.
have high expectations from a lot of people in business. It happens transparently, it happens authentically and organically, and then we move to it. We step into it or we step away. Well, I
Hmm.
met this one person said, sure, I can fund this project, right? I can do this. Let me look at it. It looks like it's a mix of debt and equity. So we gave everything. We gave the pro forma, we gave financial projections. Here's the C-suite, here's the executive summary. Perfect. Let's find these people the capital that they need. Well, that person, I was introduced to that person and I trusted that this introduction was sufficient. And I said, okay, great, let's work together to do this. 3 weeks later, I heard nothing. And I trusted this person to find that solution and have those connections in the industry. Well, that person went off and tried to backdoor this deal without us being involved and circumvented
Yeah.
us in the process. So was trust broken? Sure, I'll
Hmm.
never really have business to be done with that person again. There's no sense to go back from that. Typically, in earlier times, a few years ago, I give them another shot. They have these circumstances. They were desperate. Now I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. My energy is more important and more impactful feeding other energies that are reciprocative in
Yep.
that arena and not going to do those certain things, no matter what the reasoning or purpose was. So that was where trust was broken. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be doing business with that individual anymore.
Really like that you shared that. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. We did
Sure.
protect the names of the innocent, but I've experienced that. So I've been in business development, right? You have people come on and for me, and again, this is the people loving recruiter at heart, I guess that comes for me. But I always go think, well, let's rise together, let's partner together, let's win together. And I've had circumstances where people would take my leads and backdoor, not realizing the relationships that I built with those leads. So that's for me, I've had that happen a couple of times. And I get this ring, ring. Hey, Chris. Did you know? Oh my goodness. Thank you for letting me know. I'm so sorry. I would still love to partner with you. I would still like to help you. And the thing I would encourage our audience is that your relationships are your own. You can't control other people, right? But I don't know if you've heard the analogy about when you're in trouble and God sends you a boat and you're like, nah. And then he sends you a plane. You're like, nah. And then I'm like, I'm over here waiting for the spaceship sometimes to drop, right? And it never
Right.
comes. Girlfriend of mine told me once, she's like, when someone tells you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing for me for so long because I have a heart like you that's like, maybe there was a circumstance or maybe it was this. And they said, and it's just
Yeah.
like, no, if they show you who they are, believe them and move forward. And so I think that's very powerful.
Yeah.
It's
It
super
is.
powerful. So, don't want to like beat the trust pony, but I love the trust pony. But another thing that I find so interesting about you, Mark, and you've been a really good sounding board for me, and I thank you for your friendship.
Well, thank you. Likewise.
Look, guys, we're on Instagram and we just are constantly liking each other's stuff. It's just like chicken soup for the soul. It's just good energy, right?
It is. It's-
The linear thinking, I would really like you to share that because you shared that with me a couple of weeks ago, and I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah. Thank you. There's many things along the journey that find out more about ourselves through these different assessments. I've taken probably 6 or 7 different assessments over my career. And I'm like, every one of them said, Mark, you can see the bigger picture and then you can dive into the weeds and get stuff accomplished and execute on it. And that is not everyone's superpower. And I said, oh, well, how am I different in those areas? And then I take behavioral index, I take predictive index, I take the DISC assessment and Hay assessments and Myers-Briggs and gosh, Wonderlic. I think I named them all, right? Then most recently I took one from Deloitte. I have some friends at Deloitte through a leadership council that I'm on here in New Jersey, and it's called business chemistry. And I said, "Ooh, this is interesting. Another one. Is it just like the other one? Well, there's 4 quadrants in this system for business chemistry, and there's a driver, there's a pioneer, there is a guardian, and then there is an integrator. So the 4 of them. And most people are one of the 4, or maybe majority of one, and then a little bit of the other. Well, I was a mix of 42% pioneer and 43% driver. And then I had like 10% integrator and a few percent guardian. And it really captivated for me how I approach things as a pioneer, as a entrepreneur and a startup founder, or supporting startups or supporting into the seed rounds, pre-seed, and then A, B, C, or VC capital, whatever it might be, and then driving those ideas, connecting people to technology, people to
Mhm.
sales operations, to marketing operations. And you get this pioneeric kind of viewpoint, but then how do you drive them in business? What does that look like? And it's all about your customer focus. You're either selling a product or you're selling a service. So what is that and how does it relate? And that's the human connection that a lot of the founders say, oh, well, here's a great product. Here's a great service. This is a great idea. But how do you connect with your audience? How do you connect with your customer? It's all about your customer journey. So for me, that is the best of both worlds in my nonlinear thinking, where I'm just not focused on one. I'm actually going, how do I integrate this as well? But that is my own downfall, which I rely on other people in a team to say, I'm a nonlinear thinker, so it's hard for me to really narrow down between the 4 to 5 things that I'm really tracking right now. What is the top priority right now? What is the biggest pain point from our customers and our audience? And then let's focus on that one. So I need someone that's in marketing to go, we need to focus on this one aspect right now. Let's drive this behavior into our customers and into our team to win these folks. This is what we need. This is on the sales side. So that's where I need help in that nonlinear thinking piece. But it allows me to see different perspectives.
I love that. And I think it's very, very helpful and aligned with go to market strategy, right? Growth. Just you have to understand, and I know we're going to get into AI because I know you're very passionate about tech. But in AI, I go to a lot of conferences and I work for a lovely company and a great product. I think it's going to change the world. But there's so many competitors and they're all doing the same thing. And I go to these conferences and I hear these HRTA leaders and I ask them, like, hey, what do you think? What was your experience? What did you learn? What were you here for? And I hear everybody's talking about AI. Everybody has it. I don't think they really have it. They just say they have it. It's a buzzword. I don't understand it. That's really who a large portion of these tech companies are selling into. And you think about, and I'm sure you see this, but I've seen a lot of from the top down, every business unit has to use AI. Every business unit has to show some improvement in efficiency. So it's not just our industry, it's every industry trying to figure out how can we improve things and move faster because we're not fast enough in this world. And for me, I want to keep it human centric, but I'm curious from your point of view, how is tech playing into the go to market strategy? How is tech playing into how people progress in their careers? And on top of that, I'm going to hit you with two at once because my brain's going crazy.
Go ahead.
But so you've got that with AI go to market, and then you've got this whole population trying to figure out what do I do with it and where's my career path. And so we're in this like big bowl of confusion right now. So I
Yeah.
think what you said, A, is great. Simplify the message, understand the journey.
Yeah.
But as far as other people navigating that, Mark, I feel like we've got a one-on-one with our masterclass executive coach and advisor. What would you tell people? Like, what's your guidance?
It's very uncomfortable, right? Everyone is your digital marketing guru. Everyone is saying AI from this direction, from that direction. It's a very clouded space. So what I would say, and even for myself, get intentional. What do you want this to solve? What is a pain point that you are looking for this to solve? Because everyone has an AI solution for go to market and then they're typically vertically driven. So figure out what vertical you're in if you haven't already, and what vertical your audience is being captured and captivated by. And then there is AI tools for all of those different verticals. So even though it seems like, oh, we have a solution for everything, you can't be all things to all people, right? And that is part of my nonlinear thinking problem. It's like, oh, 4 to 5 different things at once. No, Mark, boil it down to the top 2 things or one thing. And from this, I want to go into a story. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, and hopefully I do this justice, right? Finding your why. But he told a story about a German shoe salesman and why this German shoe salesman was so successful. And the story, I hope I do it justice, but it falls into the category of this news media outlet saying, why are you so successful? You're a German shoe salesman. How in the world do you get so successful just selling shoes? It's one product. Either you need it or you don't. Well, and he said, my concept is 2, not 3. And they're like, 2, not 3. What does that actually mean? I'm not following. Help us understand that. And he said, well, when I bring people shoes, they typically ask for a number of different shoes for me to bring them. And within that, when they ask for a third pair of shoes, I say, which one do you want me to take away? Taking away that pair of shoes gives them a choice of 2 pairs of shoes. When I give them a choice of 3 pairs of shoes, they rarely buy anything walking out of my store.
They're overwhelmed.
They're overwhelmed. When I give them a choice of 2 pair of shoes, they're more than 60% going to come away with one of those pairs of shoes. So the secret is 2, not 3. So keep them focused on, and I even try and boil it down to one single focus priority at the time, one pain point, and then go from there. So AI is evolving. It's very clouded. It's very messy. So figure out what your problem is and then go from there. I'll give you an example. Me and my business partner went down this track with one product that we had and one service, and we got down, it was operationalizing and streamlining our operations for sales and marketing. Who are we targeting? And actually, AI has gotten so crazy where we use multiple CRMs, right, to track people, track notes, everything else, and then have AI reach back out to those people with a voice bot. We had automated calls for people that opted in to our ads, reaching out, and this AI, her name was Haley. She sounded like a 25-year-old professional SDR, right? They're reaching out as a sales development rep. Hey, I'm interested. And it was on point with our product. The AI was trained and had our persona. It had everything in it. Go to market and hit up these other folks that might have been our ICP and our ideal customer. Then how did we re-engage with them? Instead of hiring a whole team of callers and people on a dialer, we said, here's the AI, and the AI can replicate, and we don't have to doubt whether the AI is working. We don't have to question what it's saying. It's learning and building as it's going. So it was actually a really cool AI, and it worked for us at the specific time. So we narrowed it down into that one specific area where we needed help.
It's really funny, and I love that you say simplify it because I've seen the same thing, and guys, I buy a lot of shoes, and you're right, like, if I get to over 3 pairs, I'm just like, "Well, this one's comfortable, but this one makes me look taller and my calves look." It's a whole thing.
I'm talking to the right audience about the
You're
example about
talking
the shoes.
the shoes, yes, but I'm a Libra too, but I can't so I already going in can't make up my mind on anything, right? And so I get that. But it is funny because you do see, even with me, when I talk to people about AI, I know that it can do a lot of things, but I need to understand what's their pain point and focus in on how I can help with that. And
Right,
then as they get comfortable, expand. And but again, it's for me, I think that this is a natural progression of anybody that's been in our background because we know how to connect a product or opportunity with a person and make it match. And
right.
we're matchmakers, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day. So if you've look, I think we have transferable skill sets in our industry, but I have worked with a lot of people over the last probably 5 years that are still looking for work that kind of were impacted with the COVID thing, popped
Yeah.
around a little bit. It's been AI, Trump, all the things, tariffs, name it, right? Everybody is looking for what's next. What are some things that you see that are naturally transferable skills for people in recruitment that could go into other avenues? Because I frankly don't think they see it for themselves sometimes.
That's a great question, and I get that a lot because people are like, "Mark, I am pigeonholed in a transactional, tactical HR leadership role. How do I get into strategy? How do I get into operations?" And I got into operations long time ago, 15, 17 years ago, and I said, "Okay, this is all operations." And I love the different segments of it. Figure out what works for you and what you're passionate about and what brings you fulfillment because you're always going to be searching for that next thing. For me, I never thought that I would be in financial services with Two Coast Capital and have a business partner that was in residential real estate and in finance for years. And here I find myself and it's all operations, right? I'm an operating executive and now I just found a little niche because this is the need, right? What I've seen over the past few years, and it's been 3 years, and I call it a white collar recession because that's what it is. And a lot of people like us haven't been able to find that next HR leader because HR is not what CEOs are held accountable for. They're not held accountable for people. They're held accountable for profits. So they're going to focus on sales, they're going to focus on marketing, and they're going to focus on cost containment. So finances. As a CEO, the top two responsibilities that I would say for a CEO is find the right financing to do what you need to do, and then mention that mission behind it, what your service, what your product is to sell it, and make sure you have the right finances to do it. So that's what they are accountable for. And unfortunately, people get swept by to the wayside. It's just the natural fact of what happens in business. No CEO gets paid to either hire more people or have them perform better. It's just about, I care about the profits and appeasing my either stakeholders, my shareholders, whatever have you, right? My board, I need this. These are the numbers. So I would say transferable skills, Christy, any kind of financial acumen that you might have in putting together cost containment and then finding a profit center. How can you turn what you do into a profit center for business goals, right? That's what accountability looks like for a CEO. So if you can resonate those business goals into profitability for the business, then that's your value. Figure out what that value brings to the table. I would say any kind of marketing strategy as well,
Mhm.
because it's a very clouded space. How are you marketing towards your ideal customer from that perspective? What are you doing? A lot of CEOs that I've talked to over my career, but more specifically over the past 3 years, look at HR and say, benefits and payroll. That's all HR does. And those are the two chunks that they have categorized it in. Oh, I'm fine. I don't
Mhm.
need any help. It's benefits and payroll. There's probably 15 other verticals that HR targets, but it's tunnel vision. That's what they focus on. They are very static and they're very linear in their thinking. And it's here is this two different things. benefits. I care if my people have benefits because that's what I hear about the most. And I care about if people do not get paid, I am going to hear about it. And that is a problem I need solved. So that's the antithesis for a lot of CEOs about what HR covers. And I said, I don't want to be pigeonholed in that. That is not me at all. I am much more than those different things.
It's funny. I interviewed Josh Barone. He's the CHRO of a bank up in your area, actually, Centerville Bank. So he was sharing his passion was PR for HR. Look, I think our industry falls flat. They don't show a lot of their value. And I
Right.
think it's because they care about the people, and a lot of their time is actually behind the scenes taking care of those people that the leadership never sees, right? So anything from illness to whatever complaints, like there it's basically an on-site counselor at times, I think, for people. But the smart ones have figured out how to connect what they're doing to the ROI and bringing forward ideas of, hey, if we do add this technology, we can become resource neutral. I know when I was at IBM, I created a resource allocation program because we had RPO and I was the head of hiring.
Yeah.
And what I saw is that we would get a client, and when it would come to the tail end, if they didn't renew, most of them did, but if they didn't renew, I had 60 people that needed a home. So I worked really closely with sales. I knew what was coming in. I didn't want to go back out to the market. I wanted to protect our people that had been trained.
Yeah.
And so I created a resource allocation program, and it saved the company over 40%.
It's fantastic.
But it's because I saw a problem and
Yeah.
I knew a solution, and I brought it to the table and said, hey, I've done the homework. I think this is what it could do. They said, go, and it worked.
Right.
And for me, that was me being an entrepreneur in a big blue organization, but it was fun. And I think you're right. I think that our colleagues are smarter than they give themselves credit for, but sometimes they get pigeonholed. So you come with a vast amount of knowledge. I hope anyone that was watching this got a little bit of chicken soup for the soul today, because you're my chicken soup for the soul every day.
Thank
Guys,
you.
if you don't know Mark, connect with him. Follow him on Instagram. His shares are just, they'll lift your heart. They're funny too. And if you want any 80s stuff, follow me. You'll get that, right? Kid of the 80s, Gen Xer. Mark, I'd like to close this out, but do you have anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to share with the audience, and how you would like them to connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is where they can connect with me. Listen, it's all about human connection, and I think that is the next monetary schedule that we're going to look into here. It's using AI, but it's also that not just virtual, it's a human connection that people are looking for fulfillment. So the other things are going to find a lot of people unfulfilled and empty. And without that human connection, we're going to be in a world of hurt. So I think where we can connect, let's draw upon our transparency, our integrity, and our authenticity, and then build that trust for human connection. That's where we want to go.
You ended it with trust. I love it. All right, guys, it was so great. Thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. If you know someone in the C-suite that is fascinating and their voice needs to be heard, let me know, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.